tries new things.
Keeps you sharp between the ears. And pays just a little more attention. It isn't afraid to make a statement. Changes the world, one step at a time. And squeezes our egos, insecurities and fears into tiny little metaphorical balls before crushing them. The curious don't just think, they do. Stay curious.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are so glad to welcome you as part of our community tonight. Please note that this webinar is being recorded and distributed live stream. By entering this virtual meeting room, you give your consent to be recorded and distributed by the Student Hotel Vienna and other third parties. If you prefer to not be recorded, please turn off your camera and microphone and/or go to the Facebook Live video feed, the link to which has been placed in the chat room. For a better experience, please turn off your microphone and set your video to gallery view. Tonight, live from the Student Hotel Vienna, we are joined by composer and bassist Gina Schwarz and her colleague, composer and guitarist Angelo da Silva. Dr. Bob joins us from his studio in Oakland, California. Gina, Angelo, welcome.
Bravo.
So Gina, you are coming from Lower Austria, from a non-musical family, as I understand it, or nobody's a musician in your family, and you somehow conquered the jazz world. Tell us about it. How did you get into music? What attracted you to music?
My mother played accordion, and also my sister.
La seva mare
Yeah.
toca l'acordió igual que la seva germana.
This was the start of my musical career. And I had the opportunity to play really challenging music from start on. I started with 8, and I had a very good teacher. She was very modern. So I played original music for accordion. And a few years later, I was impressed by the sound of the piano. So I started to learn this instrument too. And I played classical music, but at home I played also my own tunes, and I improvised also. So this was also the start for composing and improvising. And later I discovered my passion for the low notes, for the low register, and also for jazz.
And Gina, but tell us about, so what music were you listening to at that time? You were playing the accordion, and I don't imagine you listened to CDs of people playing accordion or Spotify or something, but
Spotify, no, not at this time.
but so the music you were listening to, what did you listen to besides your mom playing accordion then? What influenced you?
I listened to Billy Joel and El Jarreau and later Sting. And I always listened to the solo passages.
Yeah. So you're mainstream popular music.
Yeah, but also with jazz musicians. For example, Sting, he played with some jazz musicians.
Okay. And was it clear to you in the beginning that you were going in the jazz direction, or did you want to go in a different direction, like the classical music?
In the beginning with the accordion, I just liked music. I didn't think about the styles. And later I wanted to study jazz piano, but the piano teacher in my school, he could play jazz, but he said he cannot teach it.
Okay.
So
When you say play jazz, you mean improvise over chords, or you mean with the swing feeling, or what does it mean?
yeah, I liked to improvise.
Okay.
But this teacher, he said to me, he cannot teach it.
Okay.
So I played classical music.
And what were your beginnings in classical music like? You're just playing on the piano then, playing
Yes.
Mozart,
Yes, Bach.
the difficult stuff then. Okay. And so then how did you get to Vienna?
Yes, after school, I went to Vienna to study there. I studied accordion there. And later, I thought I want to play an instrument. I could play in bands. So I thought about saxophone or bass. And that I decided to play electric bass. And then I studied this instrument. And later, I discovered the love for the acoustic bass.
So acoustic bass, this came much later.
Yeah. But this is my main instrument now.
What did your mom say when you said you were giving up the accordion for the double bass?
No, she said to me I should not sell it.
So you got into jazz right away because you were missing from the accordion this social playing, the social interaction of playing music together.
Yes, because I practiced a lot with this instrument, but I had only one gig. So, and I thought it's not good.
So I'm wondering if we could hear the next piece we have here, One Place. So ladies and gentlemen, the first selection was 4K by Angelo da Silva. This next tune is called One Place, composed by Gina Schwarz. So this this music, Gina, that you write, very rhythmic, lots of pulsing rhythm that keeps going, driving, driving, driving. Even though the title is One Place, it feels like you're going through several places. Tell us about the music that you wrote.
Oh, all right.
Or a little bit about this tune.
Okay, so I'm mostly compose on the piano.
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes it's difficult to play the lines on the bass. So for me, to compose harmonies and melodies to the harmonies is very interesting for me. So this I like the most, and bass and the melody is also very important.
Mm-hmm. Well, we can hear it with all this idea of the melody. It's lyric, but it also sounds great on the bass. So you try it out also when you're playing the bass. Do you try your melodies on the bass or only on the piano?
Yeah, it depends. Some melodies are very nice on the bass. Some melodies are very difficult for the bass. So I try to compose different moods. So it's not always the same approach.
What kind of mood was this?
Yeah, this was more the energy.
Sounds like it. Was it difficult to rehearse, to get together? Lots of moving parts?
Yeah, there are some parts in this tune. The musicians always say, oh, it's difficult.
Mm-hmm. So it's very funny that we hear this music right now that is, on the one hand, modern jazz. On the other hand, it could equally be heard, in my opinion, like in some classical music pieces. So I'm wondering right now if we could bring in our classical music, or should I say music expert. Let's hear from Dr. Bob.
Welcome to Music History Monday. The title for today's podcast is Welcome back to my studio. At the time, I was writing piano etudes. I'm going to be making a gin martini.
Oh, Dr. Bob, welcome. So
yes, and I want to apologize to Gina and Angelo up front for that graceless advertisement for my Patreon page. Thank you for tolerating it. I want to say up front, I love what you guys are doing. It's fantastic. And I would also say, sorry, I hate life sometimes, don't you? My background is in jazz, and so I'm going to have specific questions for you. First thing I want to point out and ask you both about, I realize that it's easy to be a duo. That is, it's easy to travel. You're traveling light. You don't have any drum sets. You don't have a piano player to worry about. But there's also an advantage to being a duo. Would you share with everyone that advantage of a guitar and a double bass? Because if you don't, I will.
Gina?
I don't know exactly now what.
Well, then I'll answer my own question. Do you notice how neither one of these people gets in the other one's way? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. As a piano player, when I work with a bass player, I have to stay out of the bass player's way, which means my left hand is rendered almost entirely useless. I can play chords, but I can't play a walking bass line. I can't play a stride line because that's the bass's territory. But with a guitar and a bass, you have basically a bass stringed instrument and a soprano stringed instrument, completely complementary, neither one of which gets into the range of the other. The guitar only goes down to an E below middle C. And so we have this seamless plucked string sound, and when Gina's bowing, we'll hear the bowing. But I think it's a brilliant calculation, and it works really well the way Gina and Angelo play. They're very complementary to each other. Gina, you're playing beautiful lines, by the way. Your horn lines are just great. I'm just knocked out. Question. You said you started on the electric bass. Who were your influences? I mean, Jaco Pastorius from Weather Report, I'm hearing a little of that, Stanley Clarke. And in switching to the double bass, how did your playing change?
Also, I started acoustic bass by my own. So I tried to play all the lines from the electric bass on the acoustic bass.
Mhm.
This was a challenge.
Yes.
And yes, I was listening to Stanley Clarke, of course, but Marcus Miller and Victor Bailey. So really a lot of bass players. And later with acoustic bass, I started to transcribe a lot.
Mm,
So because I had no teacher in the beginning,
right.
and
Right.
yeah, so I started. And in
Who's
duo with Angelo, he's from Brazil, and we try to play music. It should sound like one instrument.
right?
That's what we are thinking about, our duo, right?
And that's what comes over. It's absolutely seamless, and it's very impressive. What, which double bass players were you transcribing? Who were you listening to?
I like a lot Charlie Hayden,
Mm,
Scott LaFaro, Dave
yes.
Holland. Well, there's so many. I like really a lot.
Scott LaFaro died so young, and he was so spectacular. Those early recordings with Bill Evans are just killer, killer. Who would you say is your greatest influence or your three greatest influences as a bass player?
Charlie Hayden.
Hmm. Good enough. Pretty darn good.
Yes, and Scott LaFaro.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm wondering, Gina, if we could ask you to give the audience some examples of how they play. Could you play a little bit of how Charlie Hayden might sound on the bass, or Scott LaFaro?
Scott. That's funny. Charlie Hayden, he plays the long fat notes.
Beautiful. So that's Charlie Hayden. Next.
Jukebox. I'm Scott LaFaro, he's playing really fast stuff.
That's pretty nice. That's pretty nice. And Dave Holland?
Wow, I'm on. I don't know.
Lovely. And one last example, Gina Schwarz. How does she sound?
We will hear it in the next piece.
Let's hear it then.
Yeah?
So this is Venezia
Yes.
by Gina Schwarz. Lovely, lovely.
Simeon, may I make a comment here?
Dr. was going to make a comment.
Well, it's just something Gina mentioned, and I think our viewers might not understand exactly what she meant. It's important. Both the double bass and the guitar have a challenge, and that is there's not that much repertoire composed for them as soloists. And as a result, guitarists and double bass players, and I would also add to this percussionists, as distinct from just drummers, have to transcribe music. And those transcriptions are either taking pre-existing compositions and transcribing them for guitar, let's say, or in Gina's case, what she said before is so important, and folks who are not jazz players don't get this. You have to sit down and listen to your favorite performers and listen to their soloists, their solos, and write them down. It's the only way to really hear what's going on and to internalize those solos. It's not enough to buy a book of transcriptions, besides which I don't think there are very many transcription books of bass solos out there. But this is how a jazz player in particular learns, by ear, by imitating, by transcribing, by copying. Jazz is an oral tradition more than anything else. And the amount of work that goes into that is just stunning. And that's what jazz students have to do. You have to listen, you have to transcribe, you have to imitate. And in doing that, you find your own voice. But it's a long, difficult process, and it's something far beyond the world of simply notated music, of playing what someone else wants you to play. You're learning to find a voice and then to exercise that voice in real time. It's a very different process.
Comments, Gina? So I have a question. I was wondering if you could show the participants what it means when you play these harmonics. There are all of these lovely stellar star-like sounds in your composition, Venezia, and I'm wondering if you could show everybody what it is when you play an open string or a string and when you play a harmonic and what the difference is.
You can play in improvisations. Like this. And then you can put it in the composition or in the improvisation. It's a nice sound, yeah. Open sound.
And just.
And you can do it on the guitar, for sure.
Can we hear some, Angela?
Just flash release.
Lovely. So it's an important part of Venezia, is it not? These sounds, these haunting open sounds.
Yeah, Venezia, I played some Chopin tune composition, and then I composed.
So influenced by Chopin.
Yes.
In which piece by Chopin? A waltz or?
I don't know exactly now.
But this melodic idea.
And the harmonic.
Okay. Dr. Bob, Chopin in jazz?
Anything in jazz. Jazz is an all-inclusive art form. Whatever you want, you can build in. It's in the ear of the creator. I mean, jazz started out in the American Deep South, played by Black American musicians, but jazz has long ago become an absolutely international music where everyone brings something new to it. And that's the beauty, if I might say. That's, if someone had to say, what's the difference between the arts of the United States and of other areas, it's this synthetic nature of American culture. We're a mongrel nation, a throw together of dissatisfied people from other parts of the world, except for Black Americans who were forced to come here against their will. And American culture is an amalgam, a synthesis, a combination of unlike parts. And one reason why jazz and rock and roll and hip hop and rap have such international appeal is because you can put whatever you want into the mix. It's a kind of grand stew. And so Chopin? Absolutely. I mean, Bill Evans was famous for taking a Debussy-like harmonic vocabulary and applying it to jazz piano. And now everyone wants to play that way because the harmonies are so exquisitely beautiful.
So now this brings us to Gina's tour of the United States. So Gina, you won a scholarship to attend the Berklee School of Music, Berklee College of Music in Boston. And there you won the Berklee Best Award, which I don't imagine they give to everybody. Then you were the winner of the Music Maker Composition Competition, the Hans Koller Prize. And when you were in New York City, you were named for one of the best performances of the year by New York Best Of. Tell us about your experience coming from Lower Austria to Vienna, to learning the double bass, to conquering the United States jazz scene.
It was a great experience for me, and because I won the scholarship in Perugia for Berklee, I thought this is a sign. I have to do it. And the Americans were very friendly to female jazz musicians, I can tell. And many teachers told me to compose because they liked my compositions. And the next year I thought it's enough for school, so I went to New York and I took lessons with all the bass players I saw at the concerts. And so I took lessons with Buster Williams, Cecil McBee, and Dennis Irwin, and a Brazilian bass player, Nilson Mata. So I think 15 or 20 bass players. Ron McClure was also. So this was great experience to meet the bass players from New York and take lessons and talk to them, especially with Buster Williams and Cecil McBee.
And you became, in a sense, part of that jazz scene, did you not?
So we played with an interesting band, 6-bass band in New York. And yeah, in the audience was Buster Williams. It was amazing. And this concert, we were one of the best, 100 best.
Mm. And so eventually you made your way back to Vienna. You're now a teacher at the Music University of Vienna, where you teach jazz double bass at the Popular Music Institute. What exactly, how has your career been since you came back from New York? What are you, how did your outlook change? And what is it that you feel like have you made this Vienna into a little New York, or how is it?
I was searching for musicians to play my music, but also to play music from my colleagues. So I started with a band, my first acoustic jazz band. It was a democratic band with 2 men and 2 women, and we recorded the first CD, so my first acoustic jazz CD, 2004. And then 2006, I decided to make a band as a band leader. So this was my debut album with my band Schwarzmarkt. Yes, this was a big thing for me. And then I had a collaboration with George Gazon. He's also a sax player from the US. And we did a tour and a CD. And the next CD was a co-production with Richard Österreicher. He is famous in Austria, a big band legend, and also harp player, great harp player. And the next CD was 2013. I was the band leader, and Venezia is also on this CD. And there are many influences from different music styles on this CD. So I composed also for the bandoneon. The next CD was 2016 with a great drummer from New York, Jim Black. He's living in Germany now, I think. Yes, and then 2020, I recorded with female jazz band, international, flute player from Germany and a piano player from Switzerland and percussion player from Vienna. And we did a recording this year, so it's out now. And my latest project is PANNONICA. This is a 9-piece band, so 6 men and 3 women, and my daughter is playing drums on it. Yes, and we have some concerts in October now, if Corona allows.
Let's take a look at PANNONICA. So Gina, this group is really your latest project. A lot of different instruments, violin, cello. Let's take a look at your tour schedule in case anyone is able to make it. Like you said, we have some October dates coming up. There we have it. So October 1st in Volkersdorf, October 3rd in Leibniz, October 10th. Okay, so we've got, everyone can come see here, ginaschwarz.com/tour. Anyone can take a look at the tour dates. Great, and let's have a look also now at how to get PANNONICA online. There it is, it's crackedandegg.com. And we have the sound clips, the video, and here in studio, we also have the CD. Wonderful, thank you. So this idea, Gina, behind PANNONICA, it's, you said before, getting all of your friends together?
Yeah, it was important for me to have musicians in the band who are really nice personalities, not only good players, both. So it worked really good. And yes, we did this recording, a double CD. So 4 days in the studio and lots of music. And we had fun, so you can see.
And what does it mean when you're a leader? You're a band leader. What does that mean exactly?
Yeah, in this case, I composed all the tunes. then I arranged it for this 9-piece band, and then I tell them my ideas about the music, and I have to book the concerts.
Okay. The dirty work.
Yeah.
Understood. So I'm wondering if we can hear your next tune by Angelo, Rastro de Luz. Lovely. So now I'd like to open it up to any questions you might have online or here in the studio. Just please come on over here to the microphone if you have a question, or we can bring the microphone to you. And anyone online, please turn on your microphone or put a chat in the chat room. We'd be glad to hear from you. So this music that we just heard, Rastro de Luz, so it really reminds me of this, what we have not talked about tonight, which is the influence of Brazilian guitar music, violão, as it's called in Brazil, and this rhythmic driving force and the harmonies and all this, like one might think of João Bosco, for instance. Can you tell us a little bit about that, Gina, and how Angelo has influenced you with this other music from South America that we haven't really talked about?
For me, Brazilian music is great because they have great melodies, great harmonies, and interesting rhythm. That's why I love Brazilian music. And I played a lot with different Brazilian musicians living in Vienna. And with Angelo is something special because we don't play only the typical Brazilian stuff, we play our own compositions. And of course, the influence from Angelo is Brazilian music, but also he has also influence from Europe, I think, as music from Europe. I can hear.
Mm-hmm. And how long has this duo been around? How long have you been playing together?
4 years.
And what the same idea as PANNONICA, you got together because you were friends and you thought this would be a great way to make music?
We just tried it out. We met in a rehearsal room and tried to play, and then from the first moment we had the feeling that we fit together perfect, and also the instruments. It's great sound, guitar, acoustic guitar and acoustic bass.
Wonderful. And we can hear you here in Vienna and also hopefully online in the future, the duo?
The duo, yes, we play on Saturday, the 19th
of October.
In September.
In September, excuse me. Mm-hmm. Okay, I understand. And we can find this.
Yes, I have to put it on the website. It's new.
Okay.
And we play on the 22nd in Stockerau, in Lower Austria.
Near in Lower Austria. Okay.
Yeah, it's on my schedule.
Okay, so ginaschwarz.com/tour.
Yeah.
And we can get all of your concerts. Wonderful. So I wanted to bring back in Dr. Bob for some closing comments.
Well, I have a question for Gina about her daughter, the drummer. Is your daughter playing drums professionally? And you've got a whole rhythm section in your house.
Almost.
Almost. You just need a piano player. I volunteer.
Wonderful. So, Dr. Bob, we'll expect you here next week from Oakland, California. Perfect. And Gina's rhythm section will be complete. Wonderful. So I think we have one final tune, Santiago by Gina Schwarz. So we have from Maria Luisa de Cantos online. She writes, bravo, bravo, Gina and Angelo, which I think we all can agree to. So we have, let's take a look at how we can stay in touch with Gina. We have ginaschwarz.com. There we have her website. There it is. And people can write to you and contact you about and see all of your concerts under the concerts section. There we have it. Wonderful. There, Gina. There's everything we need. Great. And we have from Chris Lay, that's amazing, from Facebook. Thank you very much, Chris. They're her upcoming tours again. Great. So, and how do we stay in touch now with Angelo da Silva? Let's take a look. There it is. There we have Angelo-da-silva.com. So we can keep in touch with Angelo, and we look forward to hearing your duo again. So next Wednesday, we have coming up Deshaun Burton, I Sing the Body Electric. Sound out, voices of young men, loudly and musically call me by my nighest name. Play the old role, the role that is great or small, according as one makes it. Whitman's verses still call to those crossing the East River, to the similitudes of the past and those of the future. Deshaun Burton is among the addressees of that missive. The New Yorker has crossed the river countless times en route to play his role as deep-voiced ambassador of the Ode to Joy. Deshaun, an internationally celebrated bass baritone voice, will share his life and mission with us, and even his vocal warm-up exercises. Welcome aboard the UR Music and Arts Ferry. Deshaun, flood tide below, I see you face to face. So thank you very much to Gina. Thank you very much to Angelo. Thanks very much to Dr. Bob, who can be joined here, robertgreenbergmusic.com. You can contact him any day of the week. You can also call him on the phone, which I think one of his patrons was doing earlier during the program. Whenever you need him. Thank you to our superhero production team, to our generous sponsors, the Student Hotel, and of course to you, our participants, without whom none of this would be worth the while. Live from the Student Hotel Vienna and from Oakland, California, goodbye and see you next week.